All right. I am so excited, so honored to have Kai Northcott here on the Move Happy Movement podcast. Thanks so much.
Absolutely. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah, super excited. So I always love to introduce like how I connect with people that are on the show. So mutual friend PJ Flynn of ours connected us, and he told me just how awesome you were, just like very laid back vibe. You're into nature, and I was like, oh, gotta meet this guy, gotta connect with him. And then I, got a chance to join your daily rhythms this last week, and I'm very impressed by you. So I had to get you on the show. So thank you so much for making the time.
Awesome. Thanks so much for saying that. It's a pleasure to be here.
Absolutely. So for those that, don't know your background and whatnot, why don't you share your origin story, like where you came from, what you're doing now, and where are you headed in the future?
Cool. So, yeah, I guess my story, where to pick up my story, I think starts when I was 19 and I was addicted to crystal meth. I was not going to school, I didn't have a job, but I was hungry for a different kind of future. Yeah. And so I went back to school, ended up getting 2 degrees. By the time I was 26, I was making 6 figures as an insurance broker.
Damn. That's dope.
And I didn't feel satisfied. I lived in a beautiful house. I drove a Mercedes. I had a fiance, and I just didn't quite feel fulfilled. And so I didn't have these words at the time, but what I've realized since then is that I didn't have a real purpose to my life.
Yes.
And so I walked away from all that, and I left all of that behind to live a life of purpose. And I traveled for 6 years, and during that time, I spent a lot of time in the woods. I was very involved with earth skills gatherings where we teach traditional skills like hide tanning and blacksmithing and things like that.
Wow.
And I got very involved in the nature connection movement. And after 6 years of living on the road, I settled in Asheville, and I went back to selling insurance part-time. And after doing that for about a year, the company that I was contracted with asked me to start an agency. So in 2016, I started an insurance agency, and I applied a lot of the principles that I had learned from the nature connection world and the program design, the model that we use for program design in the nature connection world. I started applying that to my insurance agency, and it rocked. It really helped my agency out a lot. And I felt like I was very much bridging these two worlds, like bringing nature connection into the insurance industry and seeing awesome results with it. And so then I started to talk to my other entrepreneur friends and started helping them applying this model to their entrepreneurial adventures, and they had awesome results. And that led to me starting this agency that I call 8 Seasons Consulting, where I help people live their purpose and accomplish more by doing less.
That is so dope. Wow. From meth addict to freaking 6-figure earner, and then boom. So it sounds like you're doing a little bit less work nowadays and getting more accomplished.
Yes.
That sounds magical. That is so cool. That is so cool. Well, thank you for sharing that. A lot of what we talk about on the Move Happy podcast is, how can you keep a positive mindset with whatever industry you are representing? And you're representing, it sounds like 2, but you've infused them into one while also doing less is more kind of thing. That's the vibe that I just heard from you. Awesome. So with that in mind, I mean, you've had like a roller coaster of what you've been through, like in a very short amount of time. So, I mean, with that in mind, like, what are some tips that you can share with our listeners that, might be interested in the insurance agency and or getting into nature coaching or wanting to be coached? How can they keep a positive mindset? What are some things that you've learned?
Yeah. So I just, really appreciate that you are focusing on a positive mindset. Study after study shows that our overall satisfaction with life and our success in life is based on how positive our mindset is. Yes. So I just really appreciate your focus on the positive mindset.
Thank you.
And for me, what has really supported me in keeping a positive mindset through all kinds of things, including about a year ago, the house that I was living in burned to the ground. So
oh my gosh,
keeping a positive mindset through all of these things,
wow,
for me, it has really come back to the practice of gratitude.
yeah,
And what that looks like for me, and it has shifted over time. I really got into the practice of gratitude when I was living at a hostel where before dinner every night, we would get in a circle and hold hands and say a few things that each person was grateful for as we went around.
Oh, I love that.
And I've just continued that practice in my life. And what it looks like at this point is that when I wake up in the morning, I do the practice called morning pages, where I write 3 pages just to clear the mind. And I also write down at least 10 things that I'm grateful for.
I love that.
And the practice of gratitude, what I find that is really powerful about that is that I'm looking at all of the things that are happening in my life, and I'm finding what is it within those things that I can be really grateful for.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like looking for the silver lining, but it's a deeper practice than that, of actually expressing gratitude, authentic appreciation for these elements the positive elements that the challenges bring to us.
Wow, that is so powerful. And I'm so sorry to hear about the loss of your home, but it sounds like you've made the best of the situation.
Yep.
Wow, that's incredible. It's funny you mentioned that too, about writing about gratitude. When I was in college, my first semester was really, really challenging transition. My grandma was dying of cancer, and it was like my first semester, you know, as an adult, a legal adult. And I would write down things that I were grateful for. And I was in the music program as a scholar, so I had to sit in the audience and listen to some concerts as a part of my scholarship requirements and whatnot. And I was just like, I felt for me, like that was moments of angst when I was like alone, and I would just write down things that I was grateful for to get my mind in the right place. So it sounds like you did that as well for your own peace of mind and healing. So that's really neat. I love that.
Absolutely. And I find that practice works even when I think it's not going to, and even when I'm resistant to it. I'll be in a really bad mood, and I'm like, okay, gratitude, fine, I'll do gratitude. Okay, I'm grateful for this. And I'm also grateful for that. And by the time I list off 10 things, it's like I actually feel better.
Then your mood like shifts, and you're like, okay, all right, I'm glad I did that. Yeah, I can definitely relate to that. That's really funny. So second pillar of Move Happy, you've really kind of talked about it already, but it's about building strong community. I'm sure, you know, with your hand holding gesture and that practice that you guys did, and any other experiences, either in your agency industry or consulting, what are some things that you've learned on keeping connected with others, and how that has helped you professionally and personally?
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate that question too. A friend of mine who he passed away a couple of years ago in a motorcycle accident, but something that I really learned from him, he had an enormous network. He ran 3 different very successful businesses, and he had a huge network of connections. At the celebration of his life, there were like 300 or 400 people from the town who came out. And what I learned from him is phone calls. He loved phone calls. Like over and over again, I would text him about something that was like pretty random question, just like a little thing, and he would call me back like immediately. And he just, the power of being on the phone with people instead of texting or messaging, that is really powerful. And another thing that I'll mention is, connecting with people in person when it's possible, when we're out of this strange time that we're in right now.
Yeah.
I have found that being out in nature with people start to drop a lot of their masks or their facades or what society expects of them. And hanging out around a fire with people is really powerful and connective. It's almost like the fire burns away everything that doesn't matter, and we're able to really drop into a deep, powerful space.
Yeah, that's so dope.
And one other thing, in the lineage, the nature connection lineage that I come from, we talk a lot about the power of a potluck. If you want to build connection in a neighborhood or with a circle of friends, invite people over. It's not a lot of work to host it because each person's bringing their own dish. And it's just really powerful to get people together around food, around fire, something to hold the center of that connection.
Yes, I love potlucks, especially after everything is cleared in the world with the pandemic. You're spot on about that. Yeah, and there's something about food that can really bring people together. Yeah, I love that. That's super cool. So You've mentioned about being in nature a lot. I can imagine, but you can correct me if I'm wrong, one of your favorite activities to move your body is in the woods, or do you have a different favorite physical activity or sport that doesn't cost a lot?
Yeah, so I do really love climbing trees. I actually
Okay.
teach classes on how to climb trunks without branches, how to move from tree to tree, and how to
Oh,
safely access the canopy.
oh, cool.
But it's a little bit inaccessible. I find that skill, you have to be in a certain place and all that. Something that
Mm-hmm.
I find a lot more accessible that I really thrive on an almost daily basis is contact improv. Are you
Hmm.
familiar with this form of dance?
No.
It's really rad. I highly recommend uh, search for some videos of contact improv or contact improvisation,
All right.
CI. The concept of it is that we can dance. So dancing with ourselves we are our first partner. The floor is
Mm-hmm.
our second partner. If there's
Mm.
music, that's our third partner. And then if we are dancing with another person, then they're our fourth or fifth, or, people dance in groups, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Mm-hmm.
the concept is that we maintain a point of contact, and then it's a totally free form dance with this other person. And
Love
so it
it.
looks really different every time. And people bring their other movement training into it. So sometimes I dance with people and it's like, oh, I feel like this person has a ballet background, or I feel like this person has a martial arts or a wrestling background.
Mm.
So yeah, contact improv. And one of the things that I really appreciate about, like I said, is like doing it in groups and with other people is awesome. And
Mm-hmm.
once I understand the principles and like the core foundation of it, I can bring that
Mm-hmm.
into my personal practice and practice contact improv at home with the floor, with the wall, and just be in my own practice in that way.
I love that. And you can do it anywhere. That is awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Awesome.
Yeah,
Awesome.
absolutely.
So what are you really excited about right now in business that we can support you with here at Move Happy?
Yeah, cool. Thanks for asking that. So my primary offering is a 3-month coaching program that I call 8 Seasons Path. And that is where I really focus with my clients on helping them discern what their purpose is, make
Mm-hmm.
sure that they're living in alignment with that their business is in alignment with that, and then reshaping each day, each week, each month to build some rhythm and some structure to help
Cool.
them accomplish more by doing less.
Love that.
And so the next session of that starts on May 5th.
Okay.
I currently have 8 spots still open for that.
Okay.
And that, like I said, that's a 3-month program. And then just recently, I launched a program that you mentioned at the beginning called
Mm-hmm.
Daily Rhythms, where I take
Yeah.
a lot of the principles of the 8 Seasons Path and it's kind of like 8 Seasons Path Light, where
Mm-hmm.
it's an ongoing program. People can join anytime. And I'm very focused on what's happening in the world right now when
Mm-hmm.
a lot of us are at home way more than we're
Mm-hmm.
used to. A lot of us are working from home. And I think it's important to note that, people who work from home, studies show that people who work from home actually have higher rates of depression and even suicide because it's really difficult to separate work life from home life.
Yep.
And so part of the practice that I'm offering right now is about how to create those boundaries, how to create rhythm, how to create structure so that we can continue to stay energized, focused, and connected in these really challenging times.
Love that. Yeah. And being a participant of your class, it was very, very powerful. Just in that one session that I went in. So everybody needs to sign up. How do they sign up if they want to do your daily rhythms and or your 3-month program?
Cool. So both of those you can find at the number 8 seasons.consulting. There are links to both of those on the front page. And one thing I'll mention too about Daily Rhythms real quick is that it is pay what you can, no one turned away for lack of funds. To me, it just feels extremely important to get this information and these models and these ways of approaching work out there right now when we're all facing something really different than we've all faced before. So if you are interested, if you're intrigued by what I'm hearing, but your income is cut back right now, that's totally fine. Join up anyway. Happy to support you however I can right now.
Awesome.
The number 8 seasons.consulting.
8 seasons.consulting. So everyone needs to sign up at least for that one. And those that are really interested, he only has 8 spots available for his 3-month program. So they need to go to your website right away. And then for funsies, I like to close it out with, this is a simple question that helps people to kind of get you get connected with you on a more personal level. And we've been talking lots and lots about the outdoors, which I love. And you're so spot on when you were saying how people just kind of drop their masks and become more, I want to say, authentic when
Absolutely.
they're in the woods, especially if you like dip your toes in a creek or something, you know, you get that mindful feeling. So what are your favorite spots to go hiking or camping that you don't mind sharing?
Sure. Yeah, I used to feel like this was a secret spot, and then it really blew up. It was actually mentioned on NPR, mentioned the wild blueberries that are in this region, and then all of a sudden there's like bigger parking lots and boardwalks and all these things.
That's funny.
But it's a spot in the national forest in the southwest part of North Carolina, off the Blue Ridge Parkway at mile marker 420.
Wow.
There's a zone called Graveyard Fields, and then that's very popular. My really favorite spot is the Black Balsam area. From that parking lot, you can access a couple of different 360-degree bulbs. You can go down to a creek. There's beautiful camping and hiking. Black Balsam at mile marker 420 is my favorite spot in the woods that I've ever encountered.
Awesome. Maybe we can find some photos from your experiences and get those posted too. Awesome. Well, thank you again so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to be a part of the show. We loved having you on, and we'd love to have you back.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks so much for having me on, and I look forward to seeing you on the Daily Rhythms call tomorrow.
Woo! Sounds good.
Cool.